Kevin Hinks and Alex Coffey. Now it's time for our cash tag segment. For that, I'd like to bring in the co-founder of Likefolio.com, Mr. Landon Swan, to the show. Landon, thanks for coming on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I love this topic, Spotify, because I refer to Spotify, and you've heard me say this before, they're the bizarro Uber, which means they can afford to raise prices, they can afford to pay less royalties, so they've got a much better path to profitability than someone like Uber does. Your thoughts and Likefolio's data on Spotify?
Yeah, I tell you what, Spotify's been one of our favorites for quite a while. Fantastic model that they've got going on, and you know what? It's interesting that they're doing so well against competitors that would, scare the living daylights out of most companies. Yes. I mean, you're talking about iTunes from Apple, Audible from Amazon. I mean, it is wild who they're beating because they're focusing on doing one thing and they're doing it really, really well. You can see here people when they're talking about streaming audio services, Spotify is dominant. It's almost 3/4 of mentions. So, Apple is a footnote here. I mean, it's incredible. And Pandora there, it's just incredible what they're doing. And they're doing it with very high happiness. I mean, 71% of consumers that use Spotify talk about it in a very positive light. So, a lot of times when we see numbers like that, like 71%, it's often the really small up-and-comer who's trying to take on the giant, but they're doing it very well with most of the market share, most of the mind share. And a lot of what they're doing is very cutting edge. You'd think that delivering streaming music and audiobooks, podcasts would be pretty straightforward, but they're actually investing a lot into technology, especially artificial intelligence. When you look at that, this is one thing that we always talk about is who is going to leverage artificial intelligence the best. Like, I think for the first level order effect, like NVIDIA is the very easy play, right? Everybody kind of saw that. They're the ones that are making the picks and the shovels for the gold rush. But there's actually utility to the gold of AI, and it's who is going to use AI in a way that increases their bottom line. And Spotify is showing that they're one of those that are doing that. They're using AI for voice translation for podcasts. They've got a personalized DJ for music curation that uses AI. They've got audio ads that are generated by AI. They've even got a narration for their audiobooks by AI. So, all those wonderful voices out there, those people who read for a living, they're in trouble now because AI is going to replace them. But it's incredible what they're doing with AI just to improve this, what you would think would be a really simple service. And I think Apple and Pandora and the others have treated it like a simple service, and that's why they're falling behind. So they're competing very well when it comes to music in general, but then also on audiobooks. I mean, they've got 300,000 titles. They've got a pay-as-you-go system as opposed to a subscription model, which people have shown that they prefer. So that's why they're able to challenge Audible from Amazon. And it's showing in their last quarter report. It was the second quarter over the last 3 years that was profitable. First one in a year and a half. And they attribute a lot of that to reduced marketing and personnel costs, which is a lot of that cost comes from investment into technology. So overall, we love what they're doing. I mean, the data shows that mentions are up 25% year over year. Like I said, they've got 75% of the mentions of audio streaming services, and their customers are 71% happy. So everything that Likefolio has is pointing towards very strong numbers from Spotify. We're not surprised that they're kind of hitting highs here. They're right up against that July high of 180 right now. So we'll see if they can get through it this time. But everything we've got says that they probably will, or at least that this valuation is deserved.
71% happy. It does appear that they've maybe turned a corner when it comes to profitability. You can kind of see estimates now with positive numbers going out, where before it was sort of here and there, some spots of profitability. But Landon, when you talk about this company, you compare it to Apple Music largely. I think that's their primary competitor. But as Spotify doing this one thing, this is it. This is all or nothing for Spotify. They have to have a better experience. And I think largely, I don't know if you have breakouts on happiness for Apple Music, but I'm sure they win in that category. As a former Spotify user who's switched to Apple Music because my cellular provider pays for it and free is always preferred, I get FOMO every time or every year this time of year because of that rap that comes out, and I get to see all my friends' top artists and things they listen to, and I don't have that. And I'll admit, the Apple Music interface is clunky. Spotify is a much better experience in my opinion, but the fact that for Apple, it's just a small thing that they offer in their giant ecosystem, unless they take it seriously and invest the same way that Spotify has to because it's existential, I don't see how this gap ever narrows, except for in situations like I described where it's a part of a bundle or it's included in something else that you're paying for.
I agree. And you know what? That is one thing that Apple does really, really well is they get you in the ecosystem and they make it very easy to stay in the ecosystem. So I think that is a threat to Spotify if they do start taking it a little bit more seriously, if Apple starts taking music a little bit more seriously and really focuses on keeping it within that Apple ecosystem, it could be a threat. Right now, though, just like you said, Spotify is all in on this, and it's a footnote in Apple's earnings report. I mean, the iPhone is everything for them, and music is very, very small. So it's hard to focus, even if you have a large division that goes towards that as a company. It's just hard to focus in so many different areas. So I think that's one narrative that we've kind of seen play out over the last several years is, big companies can be scary when it comes to competition, but, also the small company that is in the niche that just really focuses on doing one thing extremely well, they can take on the big company and they can win. Spotify is a fantastic example of that. And so, yeah, I don't see it turning around anytime soon just based on where their investments are going. They're not complacent. They're not just satisfied with where they're at. They're always trying to improve. So I see them continuing to grow their market share.
Landon, here's the miracle, in my opinion, here's the miracle that is Spotify. And I talked to my children about this. Spotify wasn't first to the game in this. They just did it better than iTunes and Pandora and all these companies that they just raced right by. So the lesson here for entrepreneurs maybe watching this show or children, you don't have to invent something. Take something already invented and make it better or perfect it like I believe Spotify has. Landon, your thoughts?
Absolutely correct. And also one of the things that they did that made it better was they focused a lot on podcasts. So they noticed that trend was really surging, and they jumped in on podcasts. They signed the big names, they got exclusivity, and they really focused on that outlet. Whereas, Apple Music and all the others, it was just which song do you want to listen to? We have it for you. Spotify was giving you these different options, podcasts, and now they're getting into audiobooks, and they're just doing things better, and they're finding ways to pull in more customers and to keep them. And like you said, they've got tremendous pricing power because they're doing it better. So yes, this is a great lesson for entrepreneurs. They were, quote, late to the game, and they had, if you think about who you're going up against, it's suicide to go up against someone like Apple, but they did it and they're doing it extremely well. So it's a fantastic lesson, and all entrepreneurs should take note. Great point out.
How much is the social aspect of Spotify? It seems that was really something they started with. I think it's something like Venmo also in that game. Is that a positive still, or is people become more and more data conscious, want to be more private online? Is that actually something that works against them?
I think it's kind of in the middle a little bit. I don't think it's a huge deal for Spotify. I mean, I know that there's FOMO with, people like you who don't get that wrapped every year. But, other than that, I don't think it's a big deal. But I think it's just seeing your friends using this service that's just so easy and so simple. And then maybe you have some headaches. But I don't think the social sharing is a giant deal for Spotify. I think it's really just the quality of the product and the way that they're going about executing.
Landon Swan, thanks for coming on. I'm going to give Alex the $10. I'll just sign him up. I'll put him on. I can't stand to see him in so much pain, Landon. Landon, have a great day. Have a great Thanksgiving. Say thank you to all the Likefolio people for coming on.
We will. You spread the love over there for us as well. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
All right. Have a good day. All right. You got a trade here.